Good morning and welcome to the week ahead with me, Chris Allen. Let's have a look into what likely to drive markets over the course of this week. Maybe we can hark back to weeks gone by to see if we can rely on a few things that may help us through. Probably worth noting that gold keeps pushing these all-time highs. This is deemed as a bit of a Trump hedge as well, with his tariffs likely to be quite inflationary policies. Perhaps a few as the polls start to maybe nudge moderately more into his favor, that the hedging is beginning for that with long gold positions. Yeah, tariffs lead to inflation, and gold's an inflation hedge. Not surprising to see this rallying in a pre-election environment, plus with all the issues that are going on and continue to go on in the Middle East. But let's look at the calendar for this week. I mean, there's not a huge amount to hang your hat on here. There's a lot of Fed members, Kashkari, Daly are on the wires, albeit quite late this evening. We do have IMF meetings as well this week. Apart from that, we're very light on data this Monday, as we are often on Monday. So let's go straight through that into Tuesday. We start to hear from some more central bankers this week. We have the IMF and the World Bank Group discussions going on throughout the week. We've got Lagarde on the wires there. Bailey is there later in the week, but this time he's speaking at the Bloomberg Global Regulatory Forum. Not sure how much that will impact monetary policy, but always worth tuning in just in case. Through the next, we also have the BRICS, by the way, the BRICS summit coming, starting on Tuesday. The BRICS nations being Brazil, Russia, India, China. These are the BRICS nations, and these are the kind of commodity trading nations. Really, they all produce and consume quite a lot of commodities, and there's been a view over the years that they may well kind of ditch the dollar and start trading in commodities in their own currencies, and this often brings those headlines of the death of the US dollar. And I'm not sure if that's something I'm going to see in my trading lifetime, but yes, something maybe to you'll probably see on your feeds at some stage this week, I'm sure. Take it with a pinch of salt. Would be my advice. That continues through until Wednesday. We do have the big bond auction of the week, the German 10-year bond auction. There isn't even too much in the bond market this week. If we have a look, filter this down a little bit, and wrestle with the software where it jumps around, we'll find, we apply this for the week. We're looking at German and German 10-year on, let me just put myself back in the UK. I always like to put somewhere slightly more glamorous. So UK time 10:30. This is up and out 10:35, 10:36. So don't be surprised if the results on this are a little late. And then the US later that night, UK time at 6 p.m. We have the 20-year bond auction, not quite as big as the 30 and the 10s in the US, but nevertheless, certainly the biggest ones this week. So bond auctions on Wednesday. And we have another rate decision, right? We've got rate cuts coming across the board, right? Wherever you look at the moment, there seems to be rate cuts incoming from these Western central banks, and we're expecting a 50 basis point cut from the Bank of Canada on Wednesday. So keep your eye on those Canadian dollar pairs. This could be a very interesting day for those. We get a press conference as well, 45 minutes or so later, and I think this is when Bailey is chatting at that. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank Group. A moderated discussion, so probably will be talking monetary policy a little bit in there again, a little bit late in the day for me. But finally, we have some hard numbers. We have some data out on Thursday this week. PMIs, Purchasing Manager Index. This is the the kind of leading indicator for GDP. You would say, I mean, maybe it's slightly less important than it used to be, but nevertheless, it is something you can certainly trade. As we said before, the way that this all lines up, you have the French figures out at 8:15 UK, German out 50 minutes later, and the broader European ones 30 minutes following that. And the German one is the one that typically moves the market the most. And what's lovely about these numbers is you often get a little heads up from the French figures, and the German figures follow suit. So if you want to take a little bit of risk on, I don't normally hold through figures ever. But this is one of those exceptions. So what rules are for, right? To make exceptions stick. And this is one of them. Why? Because there is a high win rate. And we see last time the French services PMIs came in weaker. Guess what happened to the German services figures? They came in weaker. I think that the manufacturing numbers were even softer. but nevertheless weakness across the board. These PMIs in Europe are what's leading the ECB, or was leading the ECB to potentially talk about a 50 basis point cut last week. And these were a bit of a horror show last time. The week again, then yeah, you can expect those rate cuts to continue. I know we had Goldman on the wire saying that we were expecting 25 basis point cuts at every single meeting in Europe until June of next year. And that was echoed in the US as well. So I think that the rate cutting cycle is well and truly underway. And these are the sort of figures that the central bankers will be paying attention to. And if they pay attention to it, the markets pay attention to it, I pay attention to it, you should pay attention. So these numbers come in weak. Yeah, that's probably going to hinder the euro's progress. Short euros, if this is a top number ahead of the German one, will be my plan, albeit be aware that if these German figures do surprise and come out positive relative to the French ones, you can get slipped on your stop. Right? Never trust stop losses during news events. You will be disappointed and pay for that disappointment sometimes. So I wouldn't be betting the farm on all this, but nevertheless, it's quite a consistent one to think about. BRICS continues all day, and then we've got the UK PMIs. These weren't, I mean, the PMIs weren't great anywhere really of late. They turned a little sour in the UK as well, having run quite nicely on the manufacturing side for a while. Not that that's a big part of the UK economy. We're very much a service-driven economy these days, but again, those were weaker too. So those figures out 9:30 again. A nice morning on Thursday, so make sure you're available for that. And then flash PMIs out of the US at 2:45, which rounds off Western PMI figures for the day. We do have unemployment claims, which we're always, even though it's a weekly number, we're always interested in that figure. At the moment, it's quite good for giving you a heads up of non-farm payroll figures, as good as anything. So if you can keep your ear to the ground on the unemployment claims week by week, you might get a feel for what's going on with non-farm payrolls at the beginning of each month. But then Friday, retail sales is all I'd look for. So yeah, not a great week in terms of data. You're really, in terms of numbers, only pinning your hopes on Thursday, I would say. This is something that you need to be aware of with trading weeks, right? Not every week is the same. And in fact, if you kind of do this on a monthly cycle, there are, the first week of the month is always an incredibly busy week with the ISM figures, with the PMIs, with the NFP, with JOLTS, ADP numbers. There's a lot coming out on the first week of the month. This week typically is very, very quiet. We're lucky, in fact, that we have a central bank decision threaded in. Otherwise, this will be one of the quieter weeks of the month. So just be aware of this and what to do in these situations, right? We're looking at the start of the week here, and there's not too much in terms of stimulus these first couple of days. So what do? Well, you don't have to do anything. You don't need to trade. Often being on the sidelines is the best trade. And when there's not a lot of stimulus out there, the market can really kind of just float around like a leaf in the wind. So if anything, you might want to be more focused on your technicals through this. And the sort of trading I would look to do is more like trappy trading, more liquidity grabbing, sort of like failed breakout style trades, because I don't think there's necessarily going to be enough to really force these markets through at the moment, unless there's some sort of unscheduled news that was to drive it. So these today, tomorrow, if I trade at all, I'll be looking for those sort of mean reversion-y trades, those horrible fake outs with no liquidity follow through, and try and take it back to where it came from. They typically work fairly well, especially with things like currencies. Maybe things like gold might be a little bit different than all the geopolitics that's going on. But that doesn't mean that there isn't anything to pin your hopes to. There certainly is. We have, and Earnings Whispers always do a lovely little graphic for us. You can follow these at eWhispers on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. This gives you a nice little rundown of the week. So before the market open on the left column, the market closes. This is US time. On the right, we've got SAP, the biggest company in the DAX. So I would expect some big volatility on this. It says after the market closes, and because this is traded in the US as well, this may well occur after 9 p.m. I've seen this figure come out at like 4:45, and they literally close the US stock market for that period while this number's released, and then they reopen the stock markets and away they go. Albeit I think that was kind of 3 or 4 quarters ago. So more recently, I think it's been coming out after the US markets close. So I wouldn't be expecting it necessarily at 5 p.m., but we should know more about that anyway as the day unfolds as to when this is dropping through. But this is the biggest component of any index. I think it's, or any of the Western indices, it's like 12 plus percent. In the US, you're looking at 6, 7s, maybe 8s for the Nasdaq with your Apples and Microsofts and Nvidias. In the UK, you're nearly nudging on 10, but nothing north of 10%. Yeah, last week we had United Health Group about 8% of the Dow. But yeah, so this is the biggest single stock that is going to probably have one of the biggest, potentially, the biggest single effects. So I'll be watching the DAX, especially on the open tomorrow morning. I would expect some lively action. What else we got? 3M. This is in the Dow Jones, not a huge one, but tomorrow morning before the market opens, we're expecting this out. We've kind of alluded to this previously, the spreadsheet that I put out for all the European and US indices. We've got 3M figures expected out at 11:30 tomorrow. So that would be one that maybe gives us something to trade in what's a very quiet day tomorrow too. Wednesday, we've got Boeing in the morning, so nicely spread. It's not a huge one, Boeing. So 2.35% of the Dow Jones, but that's how it's 12:30 or expected out 12:30 on Wednesday. And then the evening of Wednesday, we have Tesla and IBM. And these are both, well, Tesla's kind of one of the Mag 7s, right? So this is the first Magnificent Seven stock to report. The market will care a lot about what this says. So tune in to this one. IBM's also releasing at a similar time. This is a bigger chunk of the Dow than Tesla is of the Nasdaq. So expect volatility on the Dow after the market closes. These are both scheduled at least to be out 10 minutes after the market closes. Thursday's fairly quiet and Friday too. So yeah, that's really my focus for the week. It's not a big busy week. Today, incredibly quiet. Tomorrow, 3M. Wednesday, a little bit of earnings, maybe some Bank of Canada trades, Canadian dollar trades, and Thursday, PMIs, rounding the week off on Friday, hopefully pretty quietly as well, especially as it's half term as well, right? These doesn't mean a lot half term necessarily, but a lot of traders are of an age where they have kids, and this is a nice time given, if you can see the weather in the background there, pretty dreary in London on a Monday morning this time of year. A lot of people like to get away. So the volumes in the market are typically a little bit lighter, certainly in Europe. So just bear that in mind when you're expecting this to move in the same way that it might do when everyone's around. You may be disappointed, so please be aware. So if you do want to get a copy of this earnings spreadsheet that takes you through the whole earnings season, do reach out to me. You'll grab me either on the link below this or on at the volume profile on Twitter. Just send me a DM and I can forward that through. It's really good to kind of let you know when to schedule yourself to be around. And yeah, we've got some really big ones coming out next week. I think 5 of the Mag 7 report next week, so that should be even more spicy than what we're getting. Yeah, have a good one. Don't overtrade this week. I think it'll be smart. And yeah, next week I think things will be that little bit more lively.